So we're waiting for some more members of the Warrant Committee to join us. But it's just 7 o'clock now, so I suspect we'll get people turning up very quickly now. Good evening, Jerry.
Hi, Ken.
Michael and Chief, I'm wondering, do you have any preference of the order with which we proceed?
For the chief's benefit, I think he'll be relatively quick. So
yeah,
that's certainly fine with me.
Okay, that's the way I'll run.
Thank you.
Good evening, Janet.
Hi.
So we do have a quorum now, but perhaps we should wait another couple of minutes just to give people the opportunity to join. Great. Sarah's arrived. Good evening, Sarah.
Hi there, everyone. Sorry for being a few minutes late.
That's okay. We were still waiting, so the meeting hasn't yet kicked off, but I think you've provided us with the catalyst to get moving, Sarah. So I'll call the meeting to order now. Good evening, everyone. This public meeting of the Dover Warrant Committee is being conducted remotely in accordance with the temporary provisions of the Open Meeting Law. We are convening via video conference using the Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, so take caution in what you show on screen, as others may be able to see it. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. To open the meeting, can I get a roll call of members in attendance? Woody Weiss?
Present.
Peter Smith,
Present.
Sarah Cadena Kinney,
Dina, here.
Janet McCormick,
Present.
and Marty Howard is unable to attend this evening. So maybe Steve and Melissa will join us a little bit later. I guess should open up the floor to citizens' comments.
Jerry's also here.
Oh, sorry, Jerry.
Yeah,
sorry.
present. No,
Completely,
yeah, no worry, I'm here.
Thank you.
Didn't want to
Thank you.
interrupt.
You should have. Felt me on the nose when I do that again. Okay, so I'm open the floor to citizens' comments, but seeing it looks like there are no uninterested parties here this evening, we will pass and move on to the substantive elements of the meeting. And I would like to welcome our new chief, Joseph Vinci, and his assistant sergeant, Todd Wilcox. And they're going to present the proposal for the police and animal control budget for FY25. I throw the floor over to you, Chief.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm Joe Vinci. I'm the new chief in town. So started on Monday. So I am in the midst of trying to keep my feet underneath me and learn all there is to learn in this new role. So fortunately, before I came here, Sergeant Wilcox was acting chief and was able to do a really good job on next year's budget and was able to put this together. Sergeant Wilcox did all of the work on this. This was done before I got here, so I've had like the last day to really look at it. So I'm still trying to figure things out, and with the help of Todd, I have a much better understanding as of today. But with that being said, you know, I don't know how this normally works, so I don't know if there's a possibility to maybe take into consideration maybe like another week or a few days for me to look at this and really work with
Absolutely, Chief. No, we fully understand the constraints you're subject to right now, and clearly this is an evolutionary process. We haven't got final budgets in place yet, so yes, most definitely we would consider any suggested changes that you come up with over the course of the next week or so.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Like I said, I just there's a few things that I have in mind that I want to make sure are accounted for on next year's budget. So I just want to make sure that you know, we have an opportunity to dive into it before we come back before the committee and get the final approval, I guess. So thank you for that. Todd, is there anything you wanted to add about your process and how you went about this task? And
No, I think it's a good idea if you and I can kind of go over a few things, because I was sitting here tonight and I noticed at least one of which that was concerning, that's going to need some tending to see if we can get a little bit of more money into that one line item. But yeah, I kind of went off of what Chief McGowan had. A lot of it is the same as previous years. Some changes are due to contractual increases. Some are due to cost of living, but they're not anything outrageous. So, and this was a learning process for me as well. This was kind of thrown into my lap back in September. So we thought it was going to be a fairly quick process to get the new chief in there, and it was a little longer than expected. So hopefully we can get it together and get what we need.
We certainly appreciate your willingness to step up. It was really important, so thank you.
Oh, no worries. Thank you.
Okay, then I'll leave it to you guys to take it how you want. Do you want to make a presentation? We can place one on the screen if you have one, or how would you like to approach it?
I just have hard copies here in front of me. So
Okay, fair
um,
enough.
Same here, yeah, I think that we were expecting that you would have the same stuff in front of you that we have in front of us. That's what was submitted to town hall a few weeks ago, several weeks ago.
Mhm. So if you could just summarize what your proposal is, that'd be great.
okay, so again, this is coming from Sergeant Wilcox's memo. So he attached the budget in for the protective agencies. The budget accounts with 299. All line items were kept the same as fiscal year 24, apart from electricity, which was increased based on the town's guidelines that he had received. Animal control, that's accounts 292, is level funded from fiscal year 24. And then the bulk of it, the 210, which is the police budget, you know, a couple line items are being changed or eliminated. Uniform allowance was added to cleaning, so they all come from the same pot. So I think the thought was just, you know, put those two together, so it's just one account. And then, you know, as it relates to the increase in staff salary that we saw, we had 3 officers leave in fiscal 23 into 24. And we're almost back at 17. We're going to be onboarding someone mid-February to get us to 17 officers. So, and then police training has increased due to contractual changes through the CBA. So they agreed upon completion of their yearly in-service, they get that amount in the following week's paycheck. Todd, is that correct?
Yes, it's, upon completion, it will be in the following paycheck, yes.
And beyond that, the vast majority were, you know, of the line items were level funded. You know, and again, like I went through it today in pretty good detail, and, you know, trying to get a better grasp of it. And I think there may be a chance for some of these, you know, some more money being asked for in a few of the line items. But I mean, overall, I think Todd did a really good job with this. And, you know, I think he's to be commended for having done the work and having done it as thoroughly as he did for his first time. So I'm relieved that this has been done for me, and we can just try to work together to make some changes to it, because it will certainly make my life a lot easier as the new chief here. So I can't thank Sergeant Wilcox enough for that.
Okay. Thank you very much. And seeing that you evidently have followed our guidance of trying to level fund as much as possible, it would seem like you're really well on track to meeting the issues of concern to us. But I'll throw it over to the other members. Do you have any questions of either Chief Ince or Sergeant Wilcox?
Cam, just quick question. So it sounds like there is at least one line item that you're still working on. So do we have them come back, or do we just have a liaison?
No, I
work
think
with
we
them?
just need to get clarification on what that is and the justification for it. I think that would be perfectly sufficient.
Okay.
And unless others feel strongly. Sounds like we've got a deal. Do you have any indication of those areas that you might be considering changing?
So again, just in first glance at it, the police operating, the equipment maintenance, I looked at that and I think that was that's for 2,900, which would be level funded. I would, maybe for a little more of an ask there with some of the maintenance that we have.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you don't need to stretch it too much now.
Okay.
So if you would just give us a heads up on what changes you're contemplating once you get to that point,
Sure,
and
absolutely.
we will review them then.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, we'll be able to get to that certainly within the next week, if not by the end of this week. Sergeant Wilcox is in training all of next week, so we'll do our best to have it for you early next week at the latest.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us this evening. You're most welcome to stay if you're interested, but there is absolutely no requirement to do so.
Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice seeing everybody. Take care.
Thanks, Tom.
Take care.
Okay. Bye now. Okay, Michael, now it's your show.
Okay, thanks. Just going to see if I can properly share my screen. Can you see the full screen without the speaker notes?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good, perfect. I just want to make sure I'm not hiding anything. Okay, so thank you so much for having me. As already mentioned, I appreciate how busy you are. So I tried to be as comprehensive in a brief way as possible to try to make your meeting efficient. So I'm here with a budget update. I was last with you in December. Carl Valente, our acting finance director, is here, and I just want to give a real big thank you to Carl for all his work on this budget, and especially for being here tonight to answer all the difficult questions I will throw to him. So thank you for being here, Carl. So when we were here in December, we looked at a really high level of the FY25 budget kind of as a whole. Based on some feedback from Cam and Robin Hunter, I think it was appropriate now to look and kind of zoom, no pun intended, in and look at the budget on more of a cost center level, and specifically review the items that are driving the budget increase. So, as we saw with the police, a lot of departments are level funded, or, just the typical COLA level service increases. So kind of highlighting anything that might be a little out of the norm that are driving the budget increase, which is currently at 9.5%. I acknowledge that despite some tweaks from the last time we were here, which was an even 10%, it's still a pretty big increase. So, we're going to continue to work on that as some of our estimated increases become more firm actual numbers, and as we continue to refine and edit individual budgets, and we'll talk about some of what we're looking at tonight. I'll keep revisiting this screen. I know there's a lot of numbers on here, but I'll keep revisiting it and highlighting, as we go through each item. What I wanted to do very briefly, because I think you have probably seen these, but I first just wanted to go through the current Board of Selectmen goals and priorities, because these are what drive many of the budget decisions, particularly as the selectmen continue to prioritize increased strategic staffing to bring our operations and our services delivery really, in many cases, into the 21st century, which is really important. So, they've gone through and we're looking at culture of management, and I know some of the members of this committee played a role as we went through defining the role of the warrant committee, the town meeting format. We're working a lot on succession planning, both for staff and board, and also really defining the role of the selectmen. And there's been some documents that have come out as the selectmen have worked through that. Another real focus is technology and communication. So we are looking at a redesign of our website to make it more user-friendly, kind of reduce clicks, and particularly make information searches a little easier. So right now, our town clerk keeps a wonderful repository of agendas and meeting minutes. However, they're not searchable. So if you were to look up a planning board decision on a certain street, you kind of have to go through individual minutes. A lot of the research I've done has been very time consuming, flipping through hard copies of minutes. So looking to improve that and make those things searchable. A big push has been on public communication and notification, so continuing not only our newsletter and other alerts, but emergency notifications as well, and getting a good database. And then we're calling it digital transformation, but online resident services, especially focusing online permitting. Many towns now, although we really enjoy you and hope you do come and visit, you very rarely have to. Because most business can be done online, and that's not the case here in Dover. So we would like to tackle that and make those services available for people. Second page, so looking at town operation and services with a particular focus on the treasurer and accounting operations. Looking at our bylaws and how employee reporting works, as you know, we have a number of individual volunteer board and committees who directly supervise their staff, which is just in an ideal world, not a best practice. So looking at that and how we can potentially look to alter some of those. Staffing, specifically focusing on recruitment and onboarding. And then other, but really important things, the community center project, the Hale Reservation conservation restriction, the current Board of Selectmen 3 to 5 committee, and then just generally working to improve communication between the selectmen in this office with all of our boards and committees. So going back to the cost center, we'll just kind of go through them one by one. So first we'll look at general government. And again, what I've done is pulled the highlights of kind of the actual budget drivers, not the just kind of standard COLA increases. So here, obviously, with starting with selectmen salaries, a real driver here is staffing. So as I mentioned, the selectmen continue to prioritize increased capacity. So specifically, what you're seeing here is the maintenance of a full-time HR director, a full-time finance director position, and a full-time municipal project manager, which also serves with technology support as well. So I'll just talk through each of those, and I think we did a little bit last time, but we do have funding for a full-time HR director in the budget now. As you may know, the schools in the town entered a joint agreement to have a shared HR position, where the schools carried 60% of the time and salary, and the town carried 40%. This is a one-year kind of trial agreement. And while, in terms of working with the schools, it's gone very well. We have a really good relationship. There's some concerns about kind of having dual reporting. We really work through that. What the schools and the town have found that we both really do have a need for our own full-time position. We're not, through no fault of the individual employee, just the fact that she is split in two places. Neither department, school nor town feel like we're getting all of the things we need. So this budget keeps our full-time salary, which again, only 40% is currently utilized, but we would look to hire a full-time HR director. As I mentioned, oh, sorry.
Sorry, Michael, I'm just wondering, what is the budget allocation for that position?
Yeah, so if I could ask a favor, could I do the three positions? And I actually have a hidden slide in case that question came up, and it has all three positions on there. So Great. If you don't mind, let me just do the other two quickly, and then I'll pull that up, if that's okay with you.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. So the finance director, as you know on the call, we do have an acting or interim, depending on what you look at, finance director. Carl has been with us for a number of years in a number of different roles, but his true role is finance director. And Carl, I actually joke with Carl. He made me concerned about this because there was a meeting, and he joked about how he doesn't have to do this. He's retired, and he's very committed to Dover. He gives so much time and effort here, but at some point he may actually like to retire. I have also found, and the selectmen have found, that although Carl's excellent, he is only here 3 days a week, and not a full 3 days. And we really do see a need, given our goals and priorities, to have someone here full time in a full time position acting as finance director. And then lastly, the municipal project manager is a position that had previously existed, and this current fiscal year, the money was reallocated to the full-time HR director. I think at the time that certainly made sense. I have no doubt, and obviously we're asking for a full-time position. I strongly believe, as do the selectmen, we need a full-time HR director. However, now that we've gone a year without a municipal project manager, we are really feeling the need for that. This position not only handles project management, and again, many of our goals involve that, like online permitting and website redesign, but they also provide some on-site IT support. We do have an IT contract provider that does provide services. They do all our behind the scenes, like the servers and things like that, but they also send a person 1 day a week, kind of like a help desk technician here. And generally that's been good. It's nice to have someone here, but we're really feeling the need to have someone available on a day-to-day basis. I was half joking, we had a lot of trouble getting some of you email addresses. And again, trying to go back and forth off-site people, it took a little longer than I would like, and I'm sure you would like. So there's just one example.
You're just using that as leverage, Michael.
Yeah, that's right. I asked them to delay. I said I couldn't make this up. So, I think that's just one of many, many examples of, I think, the benefits of having someone on site. So with that, I'm going to see if I can pull up my hidden slide in case this came up. Let's see. Sorry.
We can see it. Oh, it disappeared. You had it up there and then it disappeared.
Yeah, let me, how can I jump? Sorry, I'm not, when it's in presenter mode, I'm not exactly sure how to fly through this. Don't look, we're gonna go back all over all this, no peeking. All right, you know what I'll do? I'm sorry, if you don't mind, can you see the slide? Even though I know it's not as big as we'd like, can you see it here?
Yes, it's perfect, just like that.
Okay, good. So what I tried to do, and I hope this makes sense, and we can certainly represent these numbers if what I did doesn't make sense. So for the finance director, we have a placeholder salary within our pay classification scale of $112,000. What we've done this year is we've reduced, or for this coming fiscal year, we reduced our professional services expenses, which is where Carl is paid out of, by $50,000. The reason for that is we don't intend for Carl to just, and I hope he doesn't just disappear. We really like a transition period, so that if this position is funded and approved, we would have Carl here for a period of time, ideal world 3 months, to help pass along all of his institutional knowledge to this new person. So that just doesn't walk out the door. So for this first year, we're looking at $50,000, but in future years, it would be a greater reduction. There'll be continuing, the following year, assuming Carl would be gone, there would be a greater reduction to that line item. So really, in this first year, the delta that we're asking is an increase of just over $62,000. For the municipal project manager, we have a placeholder, again, based on the salary scale, for $105,000. In exchange, that's the wrong word, but in exchange for that position, we've proposed eliminating a position that has existed within our data processing budget that has not been filled for some time. I believe the official title is maybe management analyst. And so we proposed to eliminate that position, which is $66,500. So the delta, or the ask for this municipal project manager in our budget, is really $38,451. And this is the one I hope this is a little confusing. So our human resources director, she is a contractor. Her current salary is $128,750. With the agreement with the school, we're paying 40% of that, so that's $51,500. The additional salary that we would have to make up if we were to keep her and keep her full time would be $77,250. So that would be the again, it's already in the budget, but just that's what the additional expense would be. What I did show here is in the first version of this budget, and you may recall from what I presented, if we were to stay at a 40% HR director, we felt we need an additional position. So the initial pass of the budget was an additional position in the Treasurer Collector's Office for payroll and benefits. Another option would be to hire kind of an HR assistant to assist the director. So either of those may have made sense. But if we are able to keep the HR director, she will take over the benefits from the Treasurer Collector's Office, which really, I think that's ideal. In many towns, it's kind of where they were placed because they do payroll and it comes out of your payroll, but it's really not the ideal place for benefit administration and advice to employees. So, we would eliminate that request, which we have in the budget you're looking at tonight. So if we did that, really the delta then is that 15,705, if that makes sense. But really, what the HR director position salary is already there. We're just keeping it. The finance director and the municipal project manager, we would have these additional increases, in order to have the positions be full time. Does that make sense, Kim?
It certainly makes sense to me.
Okay.
If anybody else has any questions, please ask them.
I
guess
the other
my
thing
only,
I'm sorry, Kim, go ahead.
My only question on or point on this is that while you've done a great job in sort of rejiggering funds, as it were, to reduce the delta upfront cost of these positions, I guess we've got to understand and realize that in the long term, we're going to be paying the full amount next year and so on. That while it makes it less painful to make the decision today, we've also had the implication of having the continuing salaries to address.
Correct. So I mean, again, the delta is the increase to the budget, but then that total salary would carry forward each year. That's absolutely true. The other piece I just failed to mention was for the municipal project manager. I don't feel comfortable quantifying this because until someone's on board and if this were approved, what their skill set is. I also anticipate there would be a further reduction from our professional services line for our IT contract. So they're doing all of our IT. Once someone's on board, we would not need them to do 100% of that work. So there would be some reduction there, but I just don't know what that is. And I don't want to give you a haphazard made up number. So I think that just to note, though, that certainly would be true, that going forward, if we would have this position, there would be additional reductions in our IT services as well. So just
right. Just one other question there. I think it's fairly obvious to us all what the finance director and a human resources director does. How are you anticipating deploying the municipal project manager above and beyond IT support?
Yeah, so we're fortunate. I am unfortunate that I did not work with this person, but we had this position previously. And so, we kind of envision this position serving that same role. So, in addition to the IT support, they oversaw a lot of the implementation of the various projects that we're working on. And they also worked with procurement as well. So it's kind of a municipal project manager, but it is a kind of a utility position where they do have their hands in a lot of things. So specifically, immediate things would be our website redesign, our online permitting, some of the other online services that we are looking to offer, our procurement, and then as well as the IT, on-site IT, some of the on-site IT services as well. And we do have job descriptions for these positions. I'd be happy to share those, just so you can get a real sense of what that entails.
Yeah, that might be useful.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know we had this position open last year as well, and weren't able to fill it. What do you think are our prospects of actually filling it this year?
The municipal project manager?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe Carl can speak to it a little bit. I know we did have some difficulty filling it. However, those efforts did stop when there was a decision to reallocate the funding for the project manager position to the HR director. So, I don't know that they wouldn't have filled it. They did have some trouble getting some candidates back out, I believe, but I think the hope is that we absolutely would be able to fill it, of course.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. So I'm just gonna slide back.
Yeah,
Michael, can I ask a question? Did I see money in one of the slides for a Carroll Community Center position? And I guess is that not a new position that would be showing up on that list, or?
It's about to come up. It's just that it's not under the selectmen's budget, so I'm just hitting that first.
Okay, that's not
Yep,
okay. I wasn't sure which budget it went under.
Yep, no, absolutely. Great question, and I'll get there in just a second.
So I got a quick question. So the numbers that we're talking about here, these are just salaries? Is that right?
For the first part that we're looking at is right here. The first line, the selectmen's salaries, correct. So that's an increase to our salary line.
Okay. So I guess my question is then, I mean, these positions all make great sense, and all the things that these people will be able to do, I think it will be wonderful for the town. The question I have is what about the things like the benefits and other stuff like the office space, telephone, computers and all that? Where do those budgets gonna roll out of?
Yeah, so we do have, existing office space, computer equipment, phones at these desks where people currently sit. Yes, there are the benefit piece for the new full-time positions, absolutely. And that's part of the calculus of this additional ask, very much understanding that. So I'll just kind of keep working through here. So for selectmen expenses, there is an increase here, and that is mainly due to increased professional service costs and contracts. So the IT contract has gone up. Some of our consulting services that we're using with the treasurer collector services are going up. And that increase is lessened because we did take out 50,000, but there is still an increase there in the expenses. And again, even though it's in the selectmen's, that this does cover consultants, for example, the treasurer collector's office and IT services to the whole town, but it does sit within the selectmen's budget. There's a smaller increase to copy and postage, just with increased costs and increased postage. There's a smaller increase in the assessor's salary as the administrative assistant position is pending a reclassification from the personnel board, which I believe it looks like that'll go through. So there'll be some additional funding there for that position and some increased duties that they'll have. We talked about the treasurer collector's salary. There was a request for new position that's been removed, but there is additional expenses related to printing. Previously, some printing was done in-house, which took a lot of staff time at kind of busy times of year. So this budget looks to fully have all of the bill printing and processing done outside of the house. And then this budget also includes postage for mailing. So this is your real estate, excise tax. And so with the postage increase, there was a pretty decent increase in those expenses for the treasurer collector's office. There's a increase in our law budget, which is really just to reflect actuals. There's been an increase in legal activities. You can't predict that, but generally we've been overspending that line item. So that's to just reflect what's actually being spent. We already talked about the reduction in the data processing salary line item. Again, that's the elimination of that position. There is an increase in elections, and that's because we're having more elections in the fiscal year. So it's simply just a function of the number of elections and the workers that are required by the town clerk's office. Conservation Commission has an increase in expenses for their contracted conservation agent. And again, that is just to reflect the actuals. They've seen a real increase in conservation permit activities. And so that's just to reflect that increase. And then as was just asked a minute ago, the Dover Community Center, the current budget includes the salary for a director position for the building. And that is, you'll see that there, the 105,027. I'm pretty good with Excel, but you know, when you try to do the math on a percentage from 0 to that, it's like infinity. So I don't know how to do that, but that's why there's no percentage there. And then you'll actually see a reduction in expenses for the community center. And there's a couple things for that. So one is the new building is going to be much more energy efficient. There's heat pumps. There's no longer an oil burner and furnace there. So we've reduced the fuel items. We did make a small increase in electricity, because we just don't know what that's going to look like running because it is all electric. We've left just a small amount in fuel oil for the emergency generator, but overall, it does see a reduction in the expenses. The other piece of that, and I'll just skip down just a second to the building maintenance expenses. That's where the expenses for all of the building maintenance exist, and there's a reduction there as well, because it's a brand new facility. Most of the new equipment is going to be under warranty. So we anticipate in the first year of operation that there'll be less maintenance costs. But just to foreshadow, over time, that's not true. So that number will have to be built back up. But we thought it was appropriate in that first year to be realistic. There's not going to be the amount of repairs that we were used to doing in the old building. So that's just reflected there. And then the building maintenance salaries is also related to the community center. It includes 2 custodians. So the concept of the building is it would be open early morning to late in the evening. And so there would be, the current concept is it'd be 2 custodians, one manning the kind of morning, to afternoon shift, then afternoon to evening, so that they're there to open and close the building, set up rooms, do cleanup after activities and events. So obviously that's a real big cost driver. The salaries here obviously have a significant impact on our budget increase. So we're really taking a hard look at this, just to see if there's ways to be creative with staffing for the community center. So we're in a time crunch. There's a lot going on. We're working with the personnel board on job descriptions, but we are really trying to take a look at this. So I do hope that we may be able to come back to you with something that looks a little different with the salaries, trying to work with all the stakeholders within the building, and try to see if there's ways to maybe be a little creative here, because this is obviously a huge ask to have 3 new positions. Again, it's a brand new building. We're really excited. We think it's important to have it staffed properly, because the last thing we want is to have the building not run well or have to be closed for periods of time because we don't have the staffing. But we also acknowledge this is a big ask.
Michael, for fiscal year 24, I know this is just the appropriated amount, so maybe actuals would be different, but why would there be any expenses in fiscal year 24 for the community center? Like, the building doesn't exist at the moment, right? So.
Yeah, so that was appropriated, but you are correct. I don't expect the actual. Sorry about that. I don't expect the actuals to come in at that, certainly. I don't know what expenses there were some expenses as part of the preparing to give the building over to the contractor. There's some storage that's currently being done off-site, rental trailers and things like that. So there are some expenses, but you are right. That's what was appropriated, but I couldn't tell you what the actuals will be, but I don't think they'll be that. That's fair.
Got it.
So those 2 line items are exclusively for the community center and not for broader building maintenance. Is that the case?
So correct, yes. So the maintenance itself falls under building maintenance. That is the expenses are, again, it was, sorry, I don't have the paper in front of me, but fuel oil, electricity, a few other things, specific to that building. General maintenance of all the buildings are all tracked in separate accounts, but they're done under the building maintenance line items.
Any questions on that?
Michael, if these positions are funded, is the townhouse fully staffed? Or are we still short of staff that we aren't asking for yet?
That's a great question. So I believe if we were able to fill these positions, you know, again, I've been here 6 months, so I'm trying to quickly figure out what exactly we need. I think we'd be in a really good spot. I don't see any other critical needs if we were able to fund these positions. I think to really round out, you know, what the town has done so far. The only exception I think is, and I think you talked with our DPW director, you know, I do anticipate there'll be some additional needs there, but we'll go into some of those other budgets. This is just general government right now. Okay, so we'll go back to this, and now we will just quickly highlight, and I know the police were just here, but again, they didn't have too many changes, but I just wanted to highlight, although you already met with the fire department, again, I just want to highlight all of the significant changes. And again, as they explained, this increase here in ambulance salaries is to provide EMT stipends for weekends throughout the year. I think I'm sure they explained to you, they saw a real success in increased staffing levels when they offered the stipends for holiday and summer weekends. And so the concept here would be offered year round. So that's the increase there. Now focusing on public works and facilities. Again, I know Director McCabe was in, so you know I won't go too in depth, but the three increases here are the $50,000 in paving to help get us closer to what we need to maintain the condition of our roads, you know, which I know is a priority for the town. A $46,000 increase due to increased solid waste costs. And then a small increase in our town water expenses, which is really just to reflect actuals. We've seen an increase in our unaccounted water charges. So basically, when that happens, it's water that's not passing through a meter that we're charging for. Usually that means you have a leak somewhere. We are actively hunting for that leak. We've had two system-wide, you know, within our system that we own around here, the townhouse, leak detection. One we did with our own vendor, and one Aquarian actually provided. Neither found leaks. We know it's somewhere because there is unaccounted for water. So we are looking to deal with that. As part of some upgrades Aquarian did, we did see an increased pressure to the system, which generally is a good thing. But there was a couple water main breaks related to that, you know, older pipes, weak pipes that with the increased pressure broke. So it's possible that those perhaps were leaks, and then you know they just full on broke. So we'll continue to monitor that, but that increase there, I just want to point it out because it is a larger percentage, but we are hoping to find a source and hopefully reduce that number, but it is to reflect actuals at this time. Going back to our cost center, now we'll focus on health and human services. And again, sound like a broken record. I know you met with the COA, I think in December, but basically the salary increase is additional hours based on demand for service. So they have an administrative assistant, which would increase 3 hours per week, and then an outreach coordinator as well. And again, I think it's a valid argument to say, despite these increases, these are really level service because their demand has increased. And in order to maintain their services, they do require additional hours. Now, culture and recreation. And I believe you also met with Parks and Rec, if I'm not mistaken. But again, they're asking for a salary increase to move a part-time program assistant to full-time. And again, based on increased service demand, not only with their programming as it is today, but I think it's some hopefully very accurate anticipation of increased use of their department given the new facilities with the community center as well. So that was an overview of this first part, total municipal budgets, which you'll see as a whole is that 6.2% increase. So now I'll just quickly dive into education, just so you have it in one spot, although I know that's a separate conversation. I believe you met with the Dover schools. I believe the region will be coming in. So I won't go into detail here. You can see what we're holding for proposals, the percentage change. Just to make a note that I did have a chance to meet with Minuteman. I don't know if they've had an opportunity to meet with you or if they traditionally come in, but we had been carrying an assumed assessment for them, and it did come in 40,000 less than we've been carrying. So there was some good news here in the budget. And now we will jump into some fixed costs. So first is our debt service, and really here the increase is largely a result of excluded debt for the community center and the Minuteman High School building project. Those total $630,000 of this change. And again, I think it's just important to note that this is offset by an equal increase in the tax levy because this was excluded debt. So while we are seeing the increase here, we're also seeing the appropriate increase on the revenue side as well that's being raised. Looking at our insurance, which we're currently a placeholder we're holding, which is an 11% increase. That's broken down into workers' comp, which is based on an initial estimate from our insurance provider, Maya. Our group, which is our health insurance, is a preliminary projection that we're holding at about 10%. And we're hoping to, get on all of these better numbers, hopefully in short order. Our other insurance includes property insurance, and that's based also on an initial estimate from our insurance provider, but also includes an additional $38,000, which is to insure the new community center. It has a much higher dollar value than our old building, all the new furniture and equipment, etc. So that 56 or almost 57,000, 38 of that is related to the increase for the community center insurance. So that is the last of this. So, again, pensions is a pretty typical increase. So you see our fixed costs is 22.5% in total. And then again, our all budgets are coming in at 9.5%. Just out of my curiosity, and this may not be helpful to you, but I was just, because I don't have all the institutional knowledge, I did pull the same version of the pie chart that I see is usually included in the Blue Book, just because I wanted to see where things fell. So with the current increases we reviewed tonight, all of our budget categories, with the exception of 2, remain at the same percentages as last year in terms of percent of budget. The exception is the schools drop 1 percentage point from 56 to 55%, and our debt and interest absorb that percentage, going from 5 to 6. So again, that was just an exercise for me. If it's helpful to you, great, but I just thought I'd share it since the graph looked pretty. I remembered how to do pie graphs, so that was fun. And
Michael, has anyone done the analysis of what the increase would be? Like, what proportion of the increase is associated with the community center, which is kind of like the one, I guess I would call it like the new item, like there's the debt and there's new salaries and things that just didn't exist in prior years. So would that 9.5% look a little bit more normal, if not for the community center, given that just didn't exist previously? Or I know it always existed, but the debt and the new salaries and the new positions and stuff like that would it look a little bit more normal? As 9.5 obviously looks big, but that the community center seems to be a driver of it.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I know I have not done that exercise. I don't believe Carl has, but I suppose I do think that's something we could do to look at, what that building on its own does to our increase.
Okay.
Just a quick question, Michael or Carl. What rate did we finally get on the bond for the Carroll Center?
It's for Carl.
Well, we actually sold that well in advance of rates going up. And we sold that debt at about 1.8%. Now that was before the additional 6 million that town meeting and the voters approved, when bids came in. So we haven't sold that remaining debt for the 6 million yet, but the initial 18 million or 18.8 we sold at 1.8%.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So what interest rates are you using for that 6 million debt? Then what's the assumption that you're running with?
I'm carrying 4.5% on that.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, I think you've overwhelmed us with numbers, Michael. So,
and it's a long slide show because I repeated a lot, but I'd be happy to share this with you. I will get you the job descriptions, and I'll also see if I could work with Carl to help me, to Steve's point, if we could microanalyze the effect of the community center piece as well.
I think you have direct access to our Google Drive, so you're welcome to put that directly in there, or otherwise, if you mail them to me, then I can do that as well.
Okay, if you could check, for some, I don't believe, I thought I did too, but when I look in my shared drives, I don't see it.
Okay, I'll check
Yeah,
that out.
and I'd be happy to
know.
load it in there. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that would be appreciated.
Absolutely.
Okay, if there are no further questions, then thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. It was very interesting. And we will reserve judgment for the moment, but appreciate your provision of that information.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks for your time.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Okay. Now we're back to ourselves. I think there's just a few cleanup things. It's actually quite surprising how we're being hit with quite a few salaries. I suppose I shouldn't have been surprised, but that seems to be the driver with a lot of the Board of Selectmen budget is the extra positions and the costs associated with the community centre. I didn't see a lot of discretionary expenses there that we could recommend curtailing. So I don't know what others' thoughts are on that. No strong opinions. Okay. Then,
I didn't have my question ready when he mentioned, but I am sort of particularly interested in the description, not necessarily the descriptions, but the municipal, the manager, the three new positions that are being allocated for the Carroll, and maybe more specifically versus just a job description, because I think the title sort of speaks for itself, but how they're really going to meet the town's objectives and the purposefulness of them as to, this is a new center and these are new positions, and are they commensurate with the needs of the town, or how specific will they be to, I don't know, I guess I should have just asked him when he mentioned it, when he said, I'll be providing the descriptions, but I guess we'll see them when they come.
right. The municipal project manager position, we did have that position under Chris Dwelly, and it was a gentleman by the name of Dave Sullivan, and he did a lot of the IT stuff, but he also was managing projects, and I had assumed that you know, if they're looking at refreshing the website, for example, and trying to digitize billing and permitting, sorry, that's the sort of area that he would be focused on. But by all means, you could reach out to Michael and ask him in writing as well, Sarah, and inform us what the response has been.
No, none of these are really new positions. We've had part-time.
The HR position is new, I guess, but
Which the HR position?
yeah.
Well, but for the last year, we've had someone operating part-time.
Right. But also the custodians and the director of the community center as
The
well.
community center costs are all new. And
yeah.
When would those actually hit? When is the community center going to open?
Yeah, that's a good question. You might recall last year they wanted to hire a director and presumably one or two of the custodians earlier to get them up to speed for the opening and to be, you know, hit the ground running. We sort of recommended against that because it wasn't clear what those roles would be prior to the center opening, and I suspect we'll need to get a more clarification in terms of timing on that one, Woody. I agree.
Yeah.
The custodians to me seem like, you know, with a 10% increase almost in budget, that so I think the old community center didn't have any, right? And I believe they just utilized custodians from other buildings in town. And so I could see you maybe need one because this is a more sophisticated building, but you know, whether you need two is a different question for me. And certainly I don't think I don't know, I don't want to sound judgmental, but like how much advanced, you know, I could see why maybe the director might need to come on before the building was actually open. I'm not sure why you would need a custodian before the building is open.
Yeah, right.
To do with the
And does a full-time position, is that really necessary? I mean, and I'm specifically referring to the full-time director, the full-time finance director, and the municipal project manager. And those were just the three specific that he'd mentioned and that he'd promised. So again, just looking for some color on how those specifically will contribute to the town's objectives. Realize that they're being suggested because we have a new building in place, and there'll certainly be responsibilities that need to be overseen. But I'm just, again, food for thought.
Yeah. Okay.
Sarah, I agree with you. Although I think if I was to make a counterpoint, I think they've had a lot of trouble hiring, and so I think hiring part-time positions probably be really challenging. I would imagine. I think substantively, I think you're probably right. I just don't know if they'd be able to find somebody who's willing to take a 19-hour-a-week job, which seems to be what we've gotten away with in a bunch of other departments somehow.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we move on, or is there more discussion there? Okay, I'll move on, seeing nobody raised their hand. So I think we're now moving on to the question of the minutes from last week. Has everybody had a chance to read them, or do you need a moment to look at them? Sarah?
I just have a couple things to add. In the fire and ambulance section, the increase for ambulance FY 2025 budget is stated as 10.47. I believe it should be 10.47%.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then in the DPW section, there is a sentence mentioning care of trees. That just seems to need a little additional clarification, because to me it reads, forgive me if I'm reading it wrong, it's unclear whether it's included in the budget or not.
Let me see. Oh, there we go. 10. I can clarify that.
I get the
think the point he was
tenor of
trying to
what you're
make
saying,
is
Peter. Yeah,
that those used to be separate items.
right.
And they're now being carried within the DPW budget. I will fix that language and make that clearer.
Okay. And in true Gordon Kinder fashion, I have one more.
Excellent.
Done. Um,
We've at last found our Gordon replacement.
well, I mean, I missed that meeting and then I felt like I really needed to pay attention. So I went through these notes. I had the time to do. Anyhow, in the solid waste section, just a small typo in quote, recycling costs have increased. It should be costs, plural, have increased. And
Yep.
that's it. I'm all done. Respectfully submitted, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got to keep me honest.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Any other suggested changes?
Not a change, but maybe a question and a request. In terms of my assignment, I know that there are other names as to how we support each other with the different departments. And I am a liaison to police and protective agency and protection of persons and property. I didn't want to overstep tonight and asked Chief or Sergeant Wilcox directly. So I'm asking you as to the appropriateness of maybe me reaching out to Chief and to Sergeant Wilcox and maybe try and provide a conduit as a means of offering my liaison support. I would go in and typically meet yearly with Chief McGowan, and we would have just a very casual sit down, and it just sort of helped to formalize his thoughts. This is obviously now thereafter because they're having to put something together, but I just wondered if you would deem it appropriate if I might reach out and offer any sort of.
Absolutely. And perhaps if you could follow up with him before the next meeting on whether he has any suggested changes to his budget, that might be very helpful.
Okay. Thank you. I'll do that. And do you want to be copied? I know that I think last meeting, maybe you said that maybe you and Michael or you and Woody would be involved in next steps or next conversation. Forgive me. I remember you mentioned it. So I'm just following up.
On next steps for what?
The transition between Sergeant Wilcox and Chief, and now that Chief is here. So again, just
no, it'd be useful if you could take that conduit role on, Sarah. I'd much appreciate that.
All right, certainly. So, and then I'll report back if I know anything before.
Okay. Now back to the minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Move that the minutes of January 24th as amended in this meeting be approved.
A second. Thank you, Woody. Let's take a vote. Woody?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Okay. I didn't forget you this time.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Aye.
And Steve?
Aye.
Great. Thank you very much.
And Janet?
Oh, Janet. I miss Janet.
No, you did not miss me. I went after Woody, so Peter.
Oh, sorry. No, my mistake.
Okay. No, it's quite possible I didn't. Thank you. Okay. Then let's move on. We've gone through the minutes. I guess the only other question is the meeting for next week. It's going to be a really full one next week. We in order to make a slot for the selectmen and police tonight, we pushed the capital budget review until the next meeting, which is the 7th of February. but we also have the Conservation Committee, open space, recycling, citizens petitions. Now, on the citizens petitions front, I'm going to reach out. I know that the town published some fairly clear guidelines on how the citizens petitions need to proceed in order to be presented to town meeting. We felt that last year there was a lot of ad hocery, and we needed to get a more consistent approach into it. Now, interestingly enough, that contentious discussion about Cross Street is going to come on again this year. I'm not sure whether it's the same resident who's proposing it or whether somebody else has decided to join him. But in any case, we will have that. And there's also another citizens petition on animals, putting dogs on leashes in public. So that's going to be a second citizens petition we need to be concerned about. I wonder if the liaisons for these various other groups could reach out to the Conservation Committee, Open Space and Recycling. We could reach out to the relevant chair of those groups to get a sense of are the budgets really just level budget? If so, we don't really need to have them appear in person. This is not a star trial or anything. So it would be good if we could get some insight into that in advance. And I'm certainly comfortable with if you are talking to your liaisons and they are committed to level budgets, that you are most welcome to suggest that they don't really need to attend.
Okay, I think those three actually all fall under me.
Oh, well, thank you, Janet. I'm sorry that they all hit at once.
So I will ask them. Oh, it's actually good because then I can just get it done once. So.
Great. Okay, so that's the next meeting on the 7th of February in a week's time. Is there any other business that we need to address this evening?
Yeah, do you know, can I ask this a good question? Do you know, there's an election in March, is that right? Is that for the new select to replace Bob? Is that's for, or?
Well, it's at the same time as the state primaries as well. So I think they decided to put them all in together at the same time.
Is there anyone running? Do we know? Like
Haviland has taken out papers.
Yeah.
Yes, I know Dave de Haviland has. I haven't heard whether anybody else has. My impression was that nobody else had, but I guess that remains to be seen.
Got it. Okay.
But also in Mike's presentation, there was something about 3 to 5 Board of Selectmen. Is that so?
There's a committee. There's been a committee reviewing whether it makes sense to increase the size of the Board of Selectmen from 3 to 5. And I think that's become more real since the passing of Bob Springer, when the load has fallen pretty heavily on particularly on Robin, but also on John. So I think there's a case to be heard on that, but that's going to be discussed as well. The Parks and Rec is also proposing to consider the rail trail. It's not clear to me at the moment just what exactly that consideration would involve, because I'm not sure that they're going to have a full cost assessment of how much the rail trail would cost by the time we finalize budgets. And also, I think there is some consensus, at least in watching the Board of Selectmen meeting, last week, there's a consensus that that would probably have to go to a special meeting, a special town meeting as well, since it would take up a lot of time. So there's that, and then also the Hale Reservation special town meeting is still sort of out there. That's a couple of other issues that we're going to have to address. I think there are a total of about 23 warrants, if I'm not mistaken. So we will, of course, in most of those are sort of standard ones, covering, you know, the operating budget, the capital budget, etc. But yeah, we'll see what we've got to deal with. Okay. Any other discussion?
Just quick
Janet.
question. Solid waste is actually under Kevin McCabe, and he came in last week. So do we need to talk? Do I need to reach out to him?
Just reach out to him and find. I actually, Michael also mentioned an increase in solid waste expenses. You might just get his explanation as to why they have gone up by, I think it's about 10% or something.
What he mentioned when I spoke to him and in the meeting was that there've been dramatic increases in some of the recycling costs. That they're paying twice as much to get glass taken care of, for example, as they in the past.
Yeah.
So all of the recycling costs have gone up, but the hope is that there'll be more domestic recycling processing centers in the next year or so, and that costs
I recall that now. Yeah,
may then decline. Right now, everything has to be shipped abroad.
Yeah, thanks for refreshing our memory on that, Woody. I appreciate that. So yes, don't worry about the solid waste. Okay. Are there any other questions? Any other discussion items? Or do I hear a motion to adjourn?
You hear one.
Do I hear a seconder? Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, let's vote by acclamation and sign of hands, and we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, everybody. And we'll see you next week.